Turkey, now called. Türkiye is everywhere at once. Ukraine, Gaza, the Black Sea, refugee routes into Europe. When Ankara moves, war plans, grain prices, energy flows, and arms deals all feel it. Türkiye is the map's pressure point, and it knows it. The leverage comes from 3 ironclad facts. Let's dive in. First, it controls the Bosphorus and Dardanelles, the narrow hinge between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. That control is codified by the 1936 Montreux Convention, giving Türkiye power to manage transit, enforce wartime closures, and cap non-Black Sea warships. That legal power is NATO's constraint and Ukraine's lifeline. It shapes how Russian and NATO warships and Ukrainian grain ships move in and out. Second, on land, Türkiye sits across key gas and oil routes and the main refugee pathways into Europe. When Ankara tightens or loosens these routes, it is not just shifting politics, it is touching gas flows, shipping insurance, and food bills from Cairo to Berlin. Third, Türkiye talks to everyone. That is its superpower and its risk. It bought Russian S-400 air defenses and lost its place in the F-35 program, angering key NATO allies. At the same time, it hosts NATO infrastructure. This is not confusion. It is a deliberate bid for strategic autonomy in a multipolar world. The goal is not just to talk to everyone, but to ensure no single power can dictate terms to Ankara. Türkiye turned code and carbon fiber into clout. In 2024, its defense and aerospace exports reached about $7.1 billion. In the first 11 months of 2025 alone, they have already hit a historic $7.45 billion, up around 30% on last year, surpassing 2024's total and on course to exceed $8 billion. Bayraktar TB2 and newer UCAVs like Hinge became symbols of inexpensive yet effective air power. But the flagship is the KAAN. Türkiye's own 5th-generation fighter. The second prototype is already in assembly, aiming for its next flight in April 2026, with Indonesia already placing a major order for 48 jets. A Baykar factory being built inside Ukraine is expected to produce around 120 drones a year, tying Ukraine's future fleet to Türkiye industry. In Ukraine, Türkiye is locksmith, armorer, and port authority at once. After Russia withdrew, Ankara pushed for new mechanisms and warned both Moscow and Kiev, do not drag tankers, pipelines, or ports in the Black Sea into open war. Türkiye officials say one strike can rattle gas flows and insurance rates from the Black Sea to Europe. That risk turns Ankara into both port authority and energy shield for Ukraine. At the same time, Türkiye drones, warships, and joint production deals deepen Ukraine's capabilities, even as Türkiye avoids fully joining Western sanctions on Russia. For NATO planners, this dual posture is equally useful and frustrating. In Gaza, Türkiye leads with moral language and backs it with contested access. Türkiye leaders frame Gaza as a fundamental test of human rights and international law, a message that resonates across much of the global south. Türkiye intelligence keeps channels to Hamas while working inside ceasefire and aid frameworks with other regional and Western actors. On paper, some Gaza peace plans list Türkiye with Egypt and Qatar as a potential guarantor for parts of a ceasefire. In practice, Israel opposes any Türkiye troops or monitors. Egypt and the UAE are wary of a larger Türkiye role, so Ankara's influence is significant but contested. As of December, those guarantors are scrambling over a Phase 2 framework amid daily ceasefire violations. Symbolism multiplies Türkiye's hard power and economic weight. European leaders publicly thank Ankara at summits. Pope Leo XIV's November 2025 visit to Ankara, urging Türkiye to be a source of stability and rapprochement during the Ukraine and Gaza crises, was a major soft power moment. This Pope's choice underlined Türkiye's role as a meeting point for colliding crises. For all the talk of autonomy, Ankara's vulnerability is cash. With inflation elevated, the economy remains structurally dependent on European markets and investment, a fragile connection Ankara uses for leverage on refugee and customs deals. Political competition is constrained, with opposition figures and media facing legal and institutional pressure. These pressures do not sit in the background. They shape how far Ankara can push its balancing act. Different actors watch the same Türkiye and see different stories. Either way, in today's wars, ceasefires, grain deals, and the future of energy logistics, Türkiye is now a necessary variable in almost everyone's equation. That balancing act between autonomy and dependency defines its power, but the equation changes every week. Hit subscribe and the notification bell to track how this essential outlier moves next. This is Makaverse. If you like this, check out our other videos and shorts. Thanks for watching. See you soon.